Because your life is almost over. Wounded waters lurking on the desolate surface of Mars, a cosmic thriller that blurs the line between science and fiction.
And what's up, everybody? It's me, True Star Screamer, and it's Thursday, and you know what that means. This is a very, very, very special episode of the Figure Action Podcast. So as you know, I'm Dave. That's Mike with Junkie and Crafts and Builds. We got T.N.T 978. Somewhere over there, Matt's floating around, but
I'm here.
Okay,
I'm here, Dave. I'm here, Dave.
Okay.
Matt is in space.
And as you can tell, we got with the intro, it is going to be a very cool episode. I'm going to tell you guys right now, if you are looking for toy news, if you are looking for some of the new, for all the new stuff, this is not the show to be watching. We are actually bypassing that tonight, guys. Enough channels are talking about it because we have some very, very special guests tonight. We have the Nameless Toy Company with their space zombies from Mars. By the way, guys, when you do catch on, I am available for voiceover work. But I digress. Let me go ahead and bring them into the room. We have, yes, Arlen. We have Adam.
Hello. And
we have Ira. Because this ain't no lie. These are our guys. I don't know. I'm winging it as we go here, but I saw the soundboard. I'm like, geez, I don't know. He's like the boy band of toy designers right here.
Can you fire your scriptwriter, please?
I don't know if you guys were catching me Tuesday on Figure Fight Club, but I was almost assaulted with a baseball bat. So I'm kind of anyway, it's a long story. You have to catch that. But we got some cool people. So the way tonight's goes, it's going to be very similar to our reaction. So once we think it's going, Mike will be up and running. I will be, of course, keeping an eye on the chat. But gentlemen, welcome to the Figure Action.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Well, it is definitely a pleasure to have all three of you guys on. It's been a busy week for you, to say the least, with your live Kickstarter for Space Zombies from Mars. And, let's just get a chance to meet the three of you. So let's go. Adam, you want to introduce yourself? And then we'll go to the other gentleman on either side of you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am this big in real life. I'm Adam. I am the guy behind the Kickstarter. I'm the guy behind the emails. I'm sort of the guy behind the scenes. I am the guy that does the unfun part of owning a toy company, and I leave the fun stuff to the other two gentlemen.
Great. Well, then let's talk to Arlen. Let's turn the floor to you for a second here.
I'm Arlen. I do the sculpting, design, artwork, and some music as well.
Excellent. Well, speaking of music, we also have, I believe, your brother Ira here as well. So welcome, Ira.
Hi, thanks for having us. I've been in Big End. I'm Ira, and I wrote down on my little thing here, the lore master. I'm the person who turns the ideas into words and stories, and I also am a co-creator with Arlen and do the music as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, again, it's a pleasure to have all three of you guys on. I know, like I said, your week has been very busy, and your time is super, super important to all of us here. But the reason we are here is because, as I was saying, there's a Kickstarter that has been live now for almost a week. And I want to give you guys an opportunity to talk about it, and let's get the word out so we can get this Kickstarter funded. So
you guys know, every Kickstarter that has shown up on our show has gone through.
Well, there you go. We're
That is
in good
correct.
company then.
Hmm.
Absolutely. So
Well,
let's
thanks
just
in
go ahead
advance,
and
guys.
Yeah, thanks.
you're quite welcome. So I'm going to bring up
Artemis
a
did not
little
show up on our
slide.
show. What can I say?
So as everyone knows, for reaction shows, we kind of like having a bit of a slide deck here to keep us on track.
Sweet.
Especially, there's a lot of information to talk about here. So let's just go ahead. I mean, we're talking space zombies from Mars. Let me make sure. There we go. So we guys kind of went through a little bit of each of you introducing yourselves, and I kind of put together some things from my experience of figuring out who you guys are. So
Mhm.
Adam, not only are you the brains behind the Kickstarter, but you have your own YouTube channel, highly articulated. So congratulations on that for being a creator on here. It's a challenge at times, but again, you're also the managing partner here, a avid collector as well.
Mhm.
Look what we have behind you there, and you also, this is not your first company that you've been involved with.
No.
I got a chance to meet you the first time at Legions Con 23 with the rest
Yeah.
of the team from Spiro Toys
Hmm.
and Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. So again, you have the pedigree and the experience already here. So that's fantastic. So um,
And you have parted
and
me
then
with my money.
I am guilty of that with a lot of people. So that's now
That's
if
why
we
he's part of
can,
the company.
yeah,
That's right.
we just need to have more people part with their money, and then we'll be happier. We're unapologetically trying to get people to part with their money.
absolutely. And Ira, like again, we I have you here as the engineer because of your talent with music, and as you were saying with the lore builder, I called you the world builder for this,
I like that.
because of the creativeness that you and your brother put together for this. And I have you down as Prometheus. Now,
That's
some
right.
people are a little confused
Sure.
with that, so I wonder if you wouldn't mind taking a second to tell us about that.
Well, if you have had a chance to look at the Kickstarter, we have a record, vinyl record that's being released, and I was the engineer of that. That's true. But my brother and I are in a band. You might recognize this head. And our band is called Prometheus, and so we basically created a soundtrack to go with your toy, to go along with your toys when you're playing with them.
And we're going to talk
I
more
like
about
that.
that as we get through the Kickstarter here, because I do have some questions about the tone and the mood that you created here for the toy line. And speaking
All
of the
right.
toy line, again with Arlen here, you are the master sculptor and design director. I say you are the scientist of the group because you have created this whole world, and this is not something new for you. You've been doing this for a while, so
10 years this year, actually.
10 years.
Mm.
And we've seen. I would say there's not a person here on the chat or on the replay that hasn't seen or held one of your creations, because you've worked for companies such as Hasbro, Mezco, Valaverse, Spirit Toys, and a lot more. And I have some examples here to show of some of your amazing talent. And it's not hard to see your influence across many adult collectors' collections here.
I own one of
Um,
those. I own one of those. I own one of those.
it is very
Serpentor too?
easy to do that.
I had
To
to beat
say that.
somebody up to get the Serpentor. No, kidding.
So, Arlen, like how's this time? I mean, you've had 10 years of working with a lot of different creatives and coming up with really imaginative sculpts for a lot of a variety of characters, whether they've been licensed or anything like that, like we have with Serpentor here. But you've also had a chance to work with a lot of other companies and work on some real original designs,
Yeah,
specifically with Fresh Monkey Fiction.
yeah. The Naughty or Nice line is basically, I went to Bill from Fresh Monkey Fiction and said, "Hey, do you think a Santa Claus action figure would sell?" And he's like, "It would have to be really cool." And I was like, "Well, wait till you see it." And then we just kind of
That's a good way to present it.
Yeah.
And I have 3 of those Santas in hand, and yes, they are cool.
Nice.
Specifically Sergeant Santa. I love that sculpt so much.
Awesome.
But again, I think I was watching one of the other streams you guys were on, I think with Rob Post and Savage Crucible, where you kind of talked about some of your favorite sculpts, and I think one of them is on the screen here. Am I correct?
Yeah, the Spider-Man, all the plates. Like, I mean, you look at it, you probably just think that was easy, but adjusting all those little plates to match exactly was a lot of work. Went back and forth with the art director a lot to basically just get it as close as we possibly could.
Oh no,
Well,
I
done that.
remember when that one came out. I was impressed because I actually have that issue floating around my house somewhere. I was like, "Holy crap, this is it!" So
Awesome. Yeah. And then Serpentor was my first G.I. Joe figure I ever did. So no
Really?
pressure at all, right?
I was getting ready to ask, like, with something as big as the classified line and GI Joe, with the mythos covering literally decades, was there a lot of pressure from the Hasbro team in like what things they were looking for a specific
Oh,
this specific sculpt?
we resculpted it about 3 or 4 times and just kept on making him bigger. They're like, "I think we want him bigger." So we like resculpt him bigger. They're like, "No, I think we want him bigger." And I was like, "Okay." So we just and we adjusted all the same thing, adjusted all the armor and tweaked things until we got it, until they were happy, basically. But I was happy to do
Now,
it, but it was a lot of work, a lot of hours.
I think we were
So
happy.
Okay.
absolutely. Now, with this much experience with dealing with say the situation here with Serpentor, were there recommendations you gave to the team that they're like, "Oh my gosh, we never thought of that. That's amazing," and made your own special tweaks for this particular figure and any figure that you've created here?
Um, that's a good question. There's usually a lot of back and forth, but a lot of times with Hasbro, they're very particular with their I think we call them red lines. So they'll draw over your sculpt and be like, "We want this adjusted to this." And but then companies like Spiro and Fresh Monkey Fiction, those are like the more indie companies. Those are the ones that you go back and forth. I make suggestions on articulation, designs. Like, you're like, "What do you think about this? If we add this or change this?" Or they'll want something sometimes, and you're just like, "That's just not possible," because of thicknesses and whatnot when it comes to the plastics.
Okay. So all that. Oh, hey guys. So with that level of experience, I mean, I can just it's just wild to think of like your pedigree, your resume, and like the influences you've had across all these different toy lines that some of them, like you said, have been around for decades, and then introducing these new unique sculpts and characters and breathing life into them for these other companies. Um, how do you what do you do for like inspiration for some of these items? And I'm imagining something, since both you and Ira are musicians, is there a certain like type of music you use for focusing and focusing your creativity? Um,
Like when I'm sculpting. No, I mean I do like to listen to music, but a lot of times I'll put on either music or have some sort of YouTube, some of these chats, honestly, sometimes, or sometimes I'm actually learning something totally different while I'm working. So I'll put on, like, Ira and I are very much into synthesizers and guitar pedals and stuff like that. So I will have videos going on about how to use a certain synthesizer or something while I'm sculpting. It's like my brain can focus on two separate things at once almost.
I know about that.
And,
Yeah.
and I always know that if I want Arlen to hear something, So if we're in the middle of making, a song or whatever, and I want him to hear like an album or something that I've been listening to, I always say like, listen to this while you're sculpting, because I know he'll be able to listen to it. Where most of the time you do that to someone and they're like, oh yeah, I didn't get a chance to listen to it, but he usually does, so it's pretty cool.
So are there times where like I mean, both your brothers and stuff, I mean, obviously there's been highs and lows in regards to like your communication and getting involved together on a project. Is there any funny stories that you guys want to say like throughout your time? If there's anything that's on the screen here that Arlen, you went to Ira, said, hey, what do you think about this? And he's like, oh my gosh, this is great, or this looks like this, and you guys kind of had some ideas together with it.
Most of the time, Arlen will show me his like ideas that he's coming up with. That's kind of how this whole thing started. But a lot of the times he'll be like, "Oh, I adjusted this, and this," and I'll send a message back to him that's like, "Yeah, man, like that's awesome. You did it. Like it's great." But I actually can't tell the difference from the other one. They look the same to
me. When we were putting the Kickstarter, oh, sorry.
No, please go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that while we were putting the Kickstarter together, there was like moments where like we would put a picture in, and Arlen would say, like, "Oh, that's the wrong picture. That has the old holster or the old whatever." And I was like, "It's the same as Ira." I was like,
"Yeah,
okay." Okay. So I would, it's all up to date, but like, it's all constantly sort of in development, and it's all, changing. And, Arlen can, speak to this too, that, the astronauts and the zombies aren't the original design as such. Like they got, remastered, if you want. Like what you're getting now is sort of like the latest version. And he's like, oh, I tweaked the butterfly, and I adjusted this, and I've changed this. And for all intents and purposes, when you can't see the file kind of like fully exploded, like Ira was saying, it looks virtually the same, and we don't necessarily notice it. But it's so great to have somebody like Arlen as the sculptor, because we can kind of sit back and just trust that he's gonna do it right.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to take our word for it either. The reason that we made the cover of Toy Collector magazine is because people know who Arlen is, and people respect his work so much that there was sort of no hesitation by those guys and retailers that we spoke to when we said, hey, would you be interested in this? These are Arlen sculpts, and they're like, say no more. We're on board. We want these figures. So it's pretty cool to be part of a project with somebody, as skilled as Arlen.
Well, that's kind of where I wanted to lead into with this whole idea is like, as you both were saying, Arlen, that, you would share ideas and collaborations, and that's kind of where this whole story and this world started to form, it sounds like. Would you talking about like how like you guys continue to work on this story? How long have you been working together on this? And then when you met up with Adam and became, the three of you came more involved with this project?
Do you want me to tell the story?
Yeah, okay. Tell the story.
Tell the story.
And then I'll hand it over to Adam for when he comes in. But basically, the story goes that Arlen and I have not been in bands together since probably our sort of mid-20s, maybe at the later part of it. And we just decided, we want to get back into music. We want to play music again, and let's start a band. And okay, well, what music are we going to play? What are we going to try and do? And we just, we were kind of writing some riffs and stuff, and we kind of thought we were going to be in a semi-metal riff band or something. And so I went over to his house for our first kind of writing session, jam session, and he had just bought this beautiful little pug Frenchy something else cross puppy, and it was just adorable and so cute. And I picked it up and sat on the couch for a minute, and he fell asleep on my chest. So we were like, okay,
Aww.
we can't wake up this cute little thing. Like, he's adorable. He's so sweet. We can't wake him up. So while I was sitting there with a sleeping puppy, Arlen was like, well, here, look at these drawings that I've been doing, because I kind of want to start. He can tell you about why he was doing them, but he wanted to start sketching things so that he could later sculpt them the way that people sketch things and say, hey, can you sculpt this? He wanted to do the sketching stuff. And so he's sending me these, showing me these space sort of like astronauts with skull faces and sort of zombie kind of things. And this idea just sort of fell into my brain right then. It was like, hey, why don't we make our music? Why don't we write an album and record an album based on these sketches? And we create this story about space zombies from Mars. And we came up with the name right then. And over the course of a few hours while this puppy was sleeping on my chest, Arlen and I wrote out each song name and this sort of story arc and how it would go through the whole story of these astronauts going to Mars and what happens there and all this stuff. And we wrote it all on paper, and we spent about the next 2 years every other Tuesday night or whatever it was recording our record until it was finished. And that's basically the story of how the idea came about and how our record was made. And then all through that time, Arlen was creating and sculpting and furthering this, and I would come up with new characters and he would come up with new sculpts, and then we kind of decided we were going to make a comic book, and the comic book follows the arc of the album, but the album is also, a different way of telling that same story. The comic book tells it in a different way with more focus on characters, and the album doesn't really focus on characters. And so when we had sort of that all basically finished, Adam comes in.
All right. And then we bring in Adam.
So I actually knew Arlen through Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. So Arlen, sculpted a bunch of figures for Jason. And I was, I had started chatting with Arlen, trying to get him to do videos, to talk about, what we're talking about now, right? Talking about the sculpting and the process and, all that kind of stuff. And he shut me down completely, said no multiple times, which is fine. I didn't take it personally. Creatives, am I right? So then I actually met him at Joe Fest. I met him and Ira. They had sort of their Space Zombies from Mars table kind of set up, and they had a couple paint masters and a couple prototype figures. And I was talking to Ira, and he said, "Yeah, and we're doing a record." And I was like, "Hold on, like what do you mean? Like a 45? Like it's a single?" He's like, "No, we're doing, full length 12-inch vinyl record." And I was like, "This is awesome." I in my head always like make soundtracks to go with toy lines. When I play with my Animal Warriors of the Kingdom figures, I always kind of think like, okay, well, what would this like tribe listen to, or like what would the sound of this group be like? How would that all work out? So when Ira said, "Yeah, we're doing a record, we're doing a soundtrack for the toy line," I was like, "This is awesome," because this is you don't see this much, if at all. And there was a comic book, and like they had all the layers to make a toy line in the way that toy lines used to be made, right? Where you'd have media to sort of go with the toy line, and those things would sort of support each other. But this was a little bit different because it all kind of happened together. It all happened, with, the record and the lore and the designs kind of all just coming together organically. It wasn't like, okay, I came up with a design for a figure, now we got to figure out the lore that goes with that, and then, we'll do it, we'll do the score to sort of go with this. It all just kind of happened together. while I wasn't there. I had nothing to do with any of that. But I was super impressed with what they had. And, after meeting them in person and then sort of chatting with them a little bit over a couple meals and a couple of drinks, they kind of said, hey, would you be interested in doing the adult part of this? And I said, yeah, sure. Why not? I can figure it out.
I think the music is a good idea. Like, I'm still singing theme songs from cartoons I probably barely even watched, but I like the themes.
Won't lie, I have probably re-listened to the Mask theme song about 6 times since I saw those figures.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I think that's part of our generation. We grew up being inundated through multiple mediums for our creativity just to play with plastic. And I love the idea of like everything coalescing through those mediums into your minds and out, and the output is what we're looking at tonight and what we're talking about. So if I can set the stage based off of the couple sentences Adam sent me, my mind started going. So I'm going to kind of read these bullets real quick about the lore behind Space Zombies from Mars.
Can I do it?
Okay, Dave.
Oh, come on.
Take us in.
In the 1960s, we looked to the stars and we saw the future of humanity, and we saw it on Mars. We sent our bravest and the best in the Red Dust mission under the leadership of Commander Spike Spectre. We waited for the transmission from the Red Planet to arrive, telling us of resources and of hope for colonization. The transmission never came. The crew of the Red Dust were lost and would never return. Sorry, I've been wanting to do that. I've been reading that thing over and over in my head.
It's great, but we're not done.
Good work.
So, part 2.
Decades later, we look to the heavens again. Our eyes return to our red neighbor and our planet's celestial sister. 4 teams of astronauts travel to Mars. Their mission is to start a colony for the future of humanity, and if possible, find out what happened to the original Red Dust mission. The mission is straightforward. What they discovered is not.
That's your theme
Again,
song.
I am available, just so you know.
So I hope we did this little preamble into Kickstarter justice for you guys. It's a cool concept that we see here now, and we're going to learn more about these characters that you guys have created and the storyline. So let's
Sounds
just
like
go right
an
into
awesome Fallout mod in some ways.
it. Does, and it brings in all the stuff that I liked as a kid.
Which, again, like I said, yeah,
it's pretty cool. But with the Kickstarter, I wanted to kind of get all of the logistic stuff for you, Adam, up front so we can focus on getting questions about the figures and everything like that. So you guys launched on the 1st-ish. Because you guys did surprise me a little bit late night on the night before the 1st. But we're going to be running through the 31st of this month. So it's a very concise window you guys have put into place for this Kickstarter. And I definitely think it's something that's very achievable. And by watching some of the other interviews that you guys have been on so far, I'm not the only one that considers this to be a future success. And you have a really realistic backing goal of $170,000 Canadian. And I know that question's asked multiple times, and I'm going to say it's in your FAQ on the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
But for us here in the United States, your funding goal to get everything going is $153,000, which is very. Oh wait, I'm sorry, 117,000. Excuse me, I can't read my own writing some days. Which again, it's a fantastic, realistic goal. Like I said, it should be something that we feel can be achieved within the time frame that you guys have. And then we have all the unlocks for USD, $170,000, and we'll go through those unlocks, those stretch goals throughout the night here. But again, we've seen so many other Kickstarters that have been, looking at like 200,000 plus for funding goals. These numbers are not just ones you Adam and the team have just kind of thrown in the wall and said, this is what we think we need. This is something you've kind of methodically thought about leading up to the
way
start.
too much.
But we also have the cost for all the items on here. Suka, how's it going, man? And it starts with a simple thing of $1 saying we love you guys, we're going to support it, all the way up to some of the bundles we're going to show for the Kickstarter, including the All Systems Go, which is $350, which is less than a dragon, I might add, right now.
It's considerably less if you go all in on the dragon. Just saying.
Yes. Yes.
That dragon looks
So,
amazing. No, no disrespect to that dragon. It looks amazing.
Nope.
But anyway, yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah.
But again, these prices for the figures, and I'm going to call the astronauts the core figures because those are the ones that are named, so to speak, and they're going to have a backstory and stuff. $40 is definitely a realistic goal or realistic cost for these figures, considering all the other lines we've seen coming out and everything. And then the army builder or the zombies themselves, $25 each. I mean, those are really nice prices, definitely to entice collectors to get into this world. Adam, I don't know if there's any. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'll sort of touch on a couple things that you mentioned, like the price points for everything. We wanted this to make sense, and by that I mean we wanted collectors to look at this and sort of compare it to the other lines that are obvious comparisons, whether that's G.I. Joe Classified or Monster Force, or other sort of similar lines like that, and see the price points and not be kind of turned off right away, and not kind of like go, well, I want it, but I don't know if that price point makes sense. The price points had to make sense. That's sort of the first thing. They couldn't be, we couldn't price ourselves out of the market before we even made it into the market. As far as the Canadian dollar thing, all three of us are, as you said right there, proudly based in Canada. When you set up a Kickstarter and your address is Canadian, Kickstarter tells you have to run your campaign in Canadian dollars. All of our funding, when we were mapping it all out, was all done in US dollars. All of our bills are going to be in US dollars. So we didn't pick Canadian dollars because we're Canadian. It was Kickstarter's decision for us. But as far as the price point for the funding goal, as far as the price points for the unlock goals, we really do believe that these are attainable goals, and we are very much positioning these with sort of zero profit for us in mind. Like, we just want to get these out there and get these figures made and use this Kickstarter to sort of kickstart the company as well, and sort of get into the market with wave 1.5, wave 2, and then future lines.
I mean, the zombies
planned
are
out, but not planned out. So.
I mean, the zombies are right there. Those are perfect impulse buy prices. If
Yep.
anyone has any hint, any curiosity, dude, just go open up another window, keep listening to our show, and go get yourself a zombie or two right now. That price is absolutely perfect. I'm sitting here. The only reason I'm not is because my keyboard clicks too damn loud. So I've got it opened up.
What I would say is, like, there's a bundle on there where you can get an astronaut and a zombie. Go that route, because the parts are interchangeable too. So the zombie, the limbs are interchangeable.
Oh,
so you're
gonna be talking about that.
Yeah,
we're gonna be talking about
so
that.
You're gonna have a little bit more fun, I think, if you get one of each, because then you get to sort of, then you have a good guy and a bad guy too, in a way. Even if you buy, the same color, you got sort of you would in theory have somebody sort of fighting against somebody that they knew before they turned, which makes for a pretty interesting dynamic. But yeah. And one more thing that I will mention, I can't remember if it was in the slides or if you're going to say it, but I'm just going to say it preemptively. The Kickstarter, you know, doesn't charge your card until the end of the campaign. So there's really no risk to anybody right now. I will say too that if you're looking at, you know, one of the unlock goals, maybe you're looking at the white astronaut, you're thinking, that's the one I want, but it's behind a stretch goal. Back now for one of the astronauts, this sort of gets your dollars into the pot for the Kickstarter, and that just gets that unlocked that much sooner. If you wait until it unlocks, you know, and if everybody's sort of sitting there waiting for the things to unlock, it doesn't happen. That's sort of how this whole process works, right? So this is going to be a completely organic Kickstarter in the sense that there's no retailer bump coming. We've already spoken to some retailers who have effectively agreed to kind of pre-orders, but we're not going to ask them for any money until April the 1st. So we're not asking them for money until we are funded and until this line is supported by collectors and by, you know, Kickstarter backers, because we didn't want to put that responsibility on them. And we really truly want, you know, everybody that backs the Kickstarter to feel like they're part of this and part of why this line will exist.
That type of passion is what is really what I love to hear, and that's part of like why I love talking to a lot of creative teams at these conventions and shows like Dave and I have for Figure Reaction, because this is where I don't want to say the money meets the money meets the road, but it's getting that whole idea, like this is not just a whole idea of like, oh, we just want to sell toys. This is blood, sweat, tears, love, and deep thought, not only as a business but also as a collector. And you know, I applaud you guys for you know, setting a very disciplined and concise Kickstarter and laying it all out right up front. That's something that is really cool, and you know, sets the bar for a lot of success.
Yeah, and to you know, I just have to mention this because I have had a couple people sort of say like, well, why is this figure, you know, a stretch goal or whatever? My two favorites, my favorite astronaut and my favorite zombie, are stretch goals, and so I'm right there with everybody else, where it's like, you know, I wish we could have done them all right off the jump, but the reality is that the funding goal would have been much higher, and there wouldn't have been any unlock goals. So it's like, where's the fun in that? So this is, as I said, you know, truly how much we need to make in order to just make these things. You know, we didn't buffer in, you know, any trips to the Bahamas or anything like that. This is like bare bones.
Or even my sculpting.
Or even Arlen's sculpting. Yeah. So in a lot of ways, you know, you look at other Kickstarters and they're paying for things that, you know, we're sort of choosing not to. Well, no, you know, this is Arlen's sort of passion project too. So that's sort of factored in there. You know, we would have paid Arlen, and he'll get a little bit, but that's a big expense that a lot of people kind of have to pay out of pocket, sort of just to get their figures designed and stuff like that. But you know, between Arlen's experience with sculpting and sort of dealing with factories, and then my experience with some of the logistics and some of the retail stuff, you know, we're putting our experience and our knowledge into this, and that doesn't necessarily come back to us through this. That's just sort of long term, you know, what we're able to sort of contribute. And so yeah, we just really want to get these figures made.
So we're moving into like some a little more. Absolutely. So that's kind of where I kind of put this slide together and kind of touch on some of the points that you, Adam, talked about. And then my first question is going to be, you chose 112. Why that is? Was there a particular reason or what?
It's my favorite scale.
And I guess that's questions for you, Arlen.
Yeah, it's my favorite scale.
Thank you. Thank you. This 110 stuff's got to go. We don't even get me started on 118.
Yeah, that I do agree. I think that, you know, 112 scale gets that really great balance of engineering and sculpt. I think
And
all of
let me
us
photograph
here
it with
for
my other
figure action,
figures.
it's our bread and butter, so to speak. And you did highlight, the compatibility of these figures, these astronauts and the zombies. I just kind of highlighted some of those, the popular other 1/12 scale that I would put these guys with.
Yep.
And again, it's all stuff that Arlen's worked on too, so it kind of works hand in hand. Between Classified, Legends, Monster Force, Action Force. I'm sure we could bring AWOC into this as well. I mean, it's just, I think that's one of the things that's really cool about this is that you can create any type of world you want with your figures and having them interact, with so many different ways. Again, you can put your astronauts there with AWOC, and all of a sudden it's like a Planet of the Apes situation, or landing on this this planet of anamorphic creatures that are basically what we have in AWOC's world. You're interacting with a giant gorilla 1 second, and then getting whisked over and getting into a battle with vampires. I mean, it's really cool, and like I said, it makes my head churn with all sorts of different ideas for like photography and whatnot.
Well, actually, so since there is some crossover in the talent with the various industries, since you guys are putting these different accessories, like the heads, for example, will a zombie head fit on an Action Force head peg or a Monster Force head peg, for example? Could it coincidentally fit quite nicely?
So the
Potentially.
these figures will be made in the same factory as at least one of the lines on that list.
I didn't say yes. You don't need to say. That's also why I mentioned multiple ones, to give you guys
and
leeway.
we will say that while some of those lines have a standard head peg size, others don't. So we can't really say that yes they will. We kind of have access to some of the information, and we will sort of try to make these as cross compatible as we can. But unfortunately, the industry as a whole doesn't. There's no industry standard head peg. There's no industry standard virtually anything.
No,
the 3 mil
not.
ports and the 5 mil ports are about as close as you get to anything that's standardized, and we'll be sort of using those wherever sort of relevant. But
I know, and guys, just so you know, if I'm not highlighting,
there's a very good
questions,
chance they'll be compatible with at least one of those lines.
That's perfect. That's all I wanted to hear. That's all I wanted to hear.
And that, again, these are questions I think you guys are going to be getting multiple times throughout this month. And I know sometimes I can understand like the hesitancy, and one of those like, gee, it's this question again.
I
But
know.
I appreciate your responses. But we're also, we're going to be looking at the detail of the figures. Some of the things I wanted to highlight just by looking at what we've been shown so far. There's going to be double joints, pinless. We're going to see multiple accessories, including potential stretchables for items. Definitely a really cool aspect with the space theme. Again, with the figures and just the design of like the real world design for the space packs and whatnot. You mentioned the idea of swappability, and that's kind of going into the story that Ayers created for this world. So let's get right into it. Talking about we have 2 astronauts and 2 walkers. Starting off, this is the very beginning of everything. So I wanted to start off with. It seems like this is the mission commander for the new mission that we talked about here, Guy Garrison, part of the military, and your bio for it from the Kickstarter is he's a highly decorated war hero, but may or may not have his own reasons for going out into space. So, what can you tell me about Guy that really highlights what this character is to you?
Guy is kind of the main driving force of Red Dust 2. And he is really working towards getting there. Basically, Spike was, like a mentor of his, and so going to Mars is a real big thing for him.
Okay.
Sorry.
One of the things that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, never mind. Sorry. You go ahead.
No, I did find, going into the storyline, at least of what we were provided, this was the whole premise of these missions is to colonize. And one of the things I had in my head, like, well, if you're going to Mars, you don't know what's going on. Why would you have a guy that brings weapons into space? And I'm sure there's going to be more hints to that.
Oh, he's from Texas. That's why.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, he's partly there to keep the other factions in line.
Right.
But I think if you notice that one of his accessories is a little folder, and it says classified on it, he knows a little bit more than the others.
Okay.
Well, hence why he's got the folder.
And that's part of the fun with this here. And is there across the figures we see in the Kickstarter, is there a reason, or is there a particular thought process, Arlen, between the colors of each of these astronauts? I understand for different divisions. Was there a particular reason you picked a color, say like, is it military because it's for the green, or was there some other theme that goes along with the story lore?
No, it was military was green, science was blue because I was thinking Earth, ocean is mostly, so that's why I went with blue. Medical is white because it's pretty standard, and then engineer was orange for like safety orange, essentially.
Yeah.
And then the red was retro because I just loved how that looked with the the bubble helmet and everything. So
because red is evil,
and it's evil.
Okay. I did have one thing I was going to ask about, and this might be kind of an encompassing question, at least for all astronauts, because it appears that the body book for all the figures is going to be relatively the same in regards to sculpt and everything, and that kind of leads into the whole idea of, army building and swappability here. Is like the helmet, is that going to have articulated?
Yes. So the helmet has an articulated visor. To put it on, you have to it splits into half. So it comes apart this way. The bottom, you take the head off the figure, plug the bottom half into the harness, put the head on, and then put the top of the helmet on. And the visor will, just lift up and down.
So as we go through here, and again, we're talking both astronauts as at the start here. Can you say how many points of articulation we're going to be looking at for this figure? Because again, the digital render is amazing, and it highlights things like at the ankles we can see it, but it looks like a lot of the other joints are kind of built into the sculpt, so they're kind of hidden, and that's really cool in my mind. So
because like Ira said, I drew everything up first, and when I was trying to design it to basically try to hide all the joints as much as possible. So like it's double knees, double elbows, wrists. If it's the guns are this way, C grip is this way. It's got the neck articulation, head articulation, butterflies. It's got a rocker in the chest, rocker in the waist, drop down hips. Bicep swivel, ankle, shin, thigh.
Okay. Well,
Now, when you say neck, neck, you mean the ball and the base of the neck?
Yes. So it's got the neck and the ball, the base, and then the head. So you can pop the neck out, and you can also pop the head off.
All right.
T.N.T
like
our resident articulation guy, so I was going to turn it over to you if you had any additional questions about articulation while we're on the topic of it.
Oh no, that was good. He explained everything.
Okay. Well, Guy Garrison seems like a really cool first figure, and then we see here as part of the accessories an alternate head, which leads me into the whole idea. Like you've already built into the idea of Army building this division out by having kind of like that. I don't want to call it generic, but that other background character, the NPC, so to speak. I like that concept of like, you can just go ahead and, as we see in some of the bundles, if you like all your astronauts in green, you can have your commander and then like his force there to help with as they go out exploring onto the planet. I find that ingenious. With the sculpt, looking across here, is things like, are the straps like I'm pointing at the screen and touching it like a weirdo, but the center strap going down the torso, is that going to be like a separate softer piece, or is that
that's
is
a
that completely
secondary.
part of the sculpt?
Same, like the harness
Okay.
up top and the straps at the bottom, and with the belt, it's all secondary. Yeah.
Are they going to be removable?
In theory, yes.
Okay. Excellent.
With the hair dryer.
Yeah, maybe. Well, the thing is, like, because if you look at his thighs, they're a bit wider, but because of the drop down hips, you can get it a bit narrower, and it should be able to slide off. Like I can do it on the 3D print, so
Cool.
it should work.
So are you're mentioning? I'm glad you mentioned that aspect of like the thighs and stuff and like sizes. Is it going to be? How am I going to? What am I trying to ask? Like just the are we going to feel, while we're going to have a lot of articulation, is it going to be kind of like a realistic feel for us? Like, all right, this guy is wearing a big, heavy suit. It's pressurized. So when he moves and articulates, it's going to look that way. I don't know if I'm making sense. I'm trying to get like an idea of like the articulation with the sculpt and how it kind of mates up, so to speak.
I can see joints on there. I can see, and Mike, just so you know, Abby, I have it on Instagram. He sent me a photo of the prototypes as well. If we need to look at those.
Okay. Yeah, I did see those as well. A lot of really great stuff that you've been showing, Arlen, on this. And again, on each of these figures, or each one of these slides, we have some blacked out parts, which we will talk about as we go along. They're kind of hidden for a specific reason, as we say here with stretch goals.
I mean, I know at least two of them are, but I'm just curious about that. There's one I'm curious about, and that is that a shot face? That looks like a face. Yeah.
Somebody said, I bet that's a head with dreadlocks on it, and that was my favorite guess, because that
must
was
be someone who's got
so wrong.
Someone who got shot in the face.
I will say
I think
this.
It's dreadlocks.
I will say this. If you had seen the samples at Joe Fest, you would have seen this already.
I was not at Joe Fest. I'm not that cool.
All right.
If you had seen the pictures from Joe Fest of the table, you would have seen this already. It's sitting right over there in my office. But...
Move the camera. I'm kidding.
So now everyone's going to go back after this and start looking at people's Joe Fest streams, which I highly recommend, and hopefully, some of your questions will be answered by that. And one thing I want to state that I'm putting in here consistently is we're putting that price point here just to remind everyone what you see is $40 right here for the this core astronaut figure. So you're getting a lot of stuff.
Jumping ahead just a little bit, you mentioned that like the shadowed parts are stretch goals. So what you see, in color there is what you get as of right now for $40. If we unlock all the stretch goals, you would get all those parts that are shadowed as well, still at that $40 price point. So the deeper we get into our stretch goals, the more you actually get for your $40. The reason for that, which we would get to when we got there, but I'm just jumping ahead, is that if you back for an astronaut now, it's sort of in your best interest too to sort of share the project, reach out to people that you know, post about the Kickstarter in Facebook groups, post it on Instagram, text your mom. I don't know if she's interested, but text your friends, text your other sort of nerdy friends who might be interested, because ultimately the whole goal of this and the way that this works is if enough eyes on the project sort of creates the buzz and the desire to have these figures. So we just thought it was sort of a fun way to do that.
My dad would have loved these, and I'd love to tell him about it, but my wife won't let me bring a Ouija board into the house.
Well, maybe do it out backyard. You got a backyard? Maybe you could do it out there. I don't know. No, I'm just no, I mean, we've said this a couple times now that like we're not trying to hide this stuff. Like if we could have obscured these things a lot more than we have. A lot of this has been out, in different pictures. If you kind of like, if you start sort of putting all the puzzle pieces back in place, and as I said, if you look at Joe Fest pictures, you would have seen that whatever that thing is. I actually showed the other, shadowed head on another show. We talked about, that what may or may not be a leg, and then the extra hands are pretty easy to figure out, what those hands would look like when they're revealed. So it's more of a way to get people to kind of talk about the project and talk about, what may or may not be there. And for me, it just makes it more fun to me as somebody that's seen it all to hear people try to guess and try to figure out what it is, because I just love to see people kind of squirm and try to figure out exactly what it is when I have all the information.
Well, this comment Suka put is perfect, because I know the three of you guys are in all different locations in Canada, but it was funny watching your expressions and how you were kind of not wanting to answer it. And this comment was perfect because your lips were sealed like a space. And that's just the fun part of it, like you were saying. So we'll go into the other astronaut that's available at launch here when we get funded is Julia Stryker. So Ira, I'll turn it back over to you. What can you tell me about Julia?
Well, Julia is the mother of the group. She works with kids, and she's a science lover, and just she wants to go to Mars. She wants the best for humanity. She has the biggest heart, and yeah, that's kind of her thing. And she takes pictures. She's got some painted rocks there. That's little projects she does with kids and all kinds of stuff. So she's that kind of person.
One thing I was wondering is the secondary heads, do they have a specific name, or are they just like a generic soldier?
No, they don't really have a character. Well, I can't say for the blacked out ones, but the ones you can see, the ones you can see are they're kind of just generic people.
Okay.
What are those? Are those tubes? I know she's got arms, the camera, and are those long things too? Like, are those just tubes?
Yeah, those ports on her stomach there, those come out, and then you can plug the tubes into there, and they plug into the backpack.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I saw the other one had it. And then she's got Waldos, which looks pretty damn cool, actually.
I like those.
I like those a lot, actually. So going through the storyline, Ira and Arlen, when we look at these sculpts and listen to these character bios, are they reflections of people that you know in your lives that kind of inspired these figures and these characters to be created?
Yeah, I would say I'm sort of the one that gives them the most the character. Arlen and I sort of build the story together, but the characters are kind of my thing. And I would say they all have some basis in reality. I can't say exactly who they are, and they're combined versions of different people. Like Julia is kind of, to me, I'm a elementary school teacher is my day job. So she reminds me of a fresh young elementary school teacher, like coming out into the world to do, before they get jaded and old like me.
Okay.
Old? We're all older than you are, man. Don't even try that.
Oh, that's one of the questions I always like asking, creative minds that develop these worlds is Julia your neighbor from, 10 years ago that you go out every morning and she'd have this bright smile and, like I said, she had some fantastic children and everything like that, as a mother and such. That type of stuff is always something I'm curious about when people create these archetypes, I guess you want to say, for these characters.
None of it is that specific, but it's definitely based on people. I know for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So Arlen, I was kind of hitting back on it before that these body bucks are all the same. Was that were there discussions or thoughts about, again, with female characters, were we going to see any sort of dimensional proportional change between the two bucks? And I think to me, it was one of those, like, once I saw the NPC head or the alternate head, it was kind of like, no, it looks like the decision was to keep things streamlined and just say everyone in their suits are going to be the same height, the same kind of build. Was that the vision from the start, or was that a discussion between you guys?
That was the vision from the start. That was, I guess, the thought process is that because once you're in the spacesuit, kind of everyone's body looks the same.
That's
so you just
absolutely
swap the heads.
That's brilliant. That's absolutely
maybe
brilliant.
like future waves as we. Again, this is just the starting point, but if at future waves as we develop the story and stuff like that, there's possibility. But right now, this is, which I thought was kind of cool because you get females right away. Like that's sounded good.
I
to
like
me.
it. And it looks like the arms that go on the packs are articulated.
Yep.
And just
and
the cool
they open and close, and they're super bendy.
Okay. And again, the little personal accessories, like the camera and like the rocks and stuff, those type of things, and we'll see those continue on with the characters in the stretch goals. That just brings that extra bit of like humanity into this whole discussion of space and the unknown, and you're bringing that piece of Earth with you in this adventure. But with everything that's good, we have a little bit of bad in here, and that's kind of what we're going to find out as the story progresses. The Red Walkers.
They're not bad. They're just misunderstood.
Yeah.
That's because because all they can say is just saying.
Exactly.
Now we look here at the Red Walker, and this is the military one, obviously. We, as a base figure, I mean, you're looking at, again, $25. You're getting this one accessory and a set of basically the figure in and of itself. And that's by design, right? Because as we'll see here, as stretch goals, that will help fortify and enhance a person's purchase. But walkers, what are we looking here in regards to, like, how are these incorporated into the world that you can tell us right now? And I'll turn that over to whoever wants to speak first.
Yeah, the zombies or the walkers are basically your classic sort of zombies, but what we've definitely tried to do is it's not a basic zombie story. It's not like a virus gone wrong or something like that. It's much more intentional, and once we get a little further along, I can drop a few more hints about that. If you guys want to say anything more about the zombies, Adam, you're smiling away over there.
Nope. I will tell. I'll tell you. I mean, Arlen and Ira know this, but I'll tell you guys. I've asked very specific questions about the zombies, and Ira's just told me no. He just won't answer my questions. Like he's keeping the lore close to his chest too. So I'm like, is this how it happened? Is this like what's going on here? And he's like, I can't tell you.
And
See,
you've read the
for me,
book.
And I've even read the comic book. Like I read the whole script and treatment for the comic book. So I have like very specific questions, and he's like, no, I'm not telling you. You have to wait to find out.
These things, like, the thing is that the characters that you are getting and that you are getting to know and that you're going to have in your hands when this is all done, this is just the very, very, very beginning. We have so much, like, Arlen and I have gone way into the past of this universe, way into the future of this universe, and way into the present as well. We have, like, you know, there's so many ideas, and this is just the very beginning.
Well, just like not just ideas, you have direction, which is wonderful, as opposed to just kind of free forming it. So, you know, we know that there is going to be a progression. We get these, then we have the next. We have whatever the if there's a bigger thing, or if there's an uglier thing, or if there's a braver guy or a braver girl. We have our Ripley, whatever. You know, you've got that mapped out for us. That's the best part.
I'd love to see how thick the Bible is for this world that you have, Ira, of all these characters and visions and stuff. And I say, you know, oh my God, huge. The whole idea of like it's a, you know, a physical book, but I know, you know, right now it's probably just a big old Word file or something, or it's all up in here maybe. Who knows? Because my only question was, how do these guys walk? How are their mannerisms, and how do they function in a different gravity? Because, you know, we have this whole idea of how a zombie is in our world, fictional as it is. But how does that transfer over into a planet that is close to our gravity, but not exactly? Just random thoughts that popped in my head looking at these guys, and that's one thing I like, is that it makes me want to think and wonder. So that, to me, hopefully that comes across like this is good stuff that you guys have put together.
That's awesome.
And again,
I mean, specifically, I don't know. What's that?
Let's see what else we got. Let's see what else we got going on.
So we also have the science one, the science walker here, to kind of incorporate with and match up with Julia. And again, articulation is going to be across the board here between the walkers and the astronauts, or are we going to see a different bit of articulation with these characters overall?
All the same.
All the same? Okay. So those are what we're going to be able to purchase right now until we are funded, and then we go into the stretch goal world. But we also have this guy too. So again, it's the cool part again with Kickstarters is that there's always these one figures that is special just for this Kickstarter, and you have like the coolest gimmick I loved as a kid, which is a glow in the dark exclusive Red Walker. Dude, can you give us any hints on this one?
As far as like,
I'll go. Anytime it comes with lore, Ira, I'll go to you first, unless Arlen and Adam want to.
Okay, sure. Well, I mean, if you can kind of read, like, we've got a little description on here of each of the zombies, and they're kind of the way that, in my mind, is like their leader, who is the main astronaut colored human, is kind of their sort of zombie personalities are sort of like derived from that person. So it's like their crew members are sort of like taking on some sort of personality traits of them.
Okay.
As far as the glow in the dark being related to the lore, though, it's not there's not a direct tie-in between the glow in the dark. That's just a cool toy function.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I was going to ask, if there was this particular aspect for the glow in the dark, or is it just like one of those like people?
No, it's really cool. It's really cool. It's glow in the dark. Like what? Why do you got to justify glow in the dark? That shouldn't be something you have to justify. We're also
You never know, though.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, they are
We-
zombies, and it is Mars, and it is so. Yeah, there's absolutely
There's a nuclear
so it's a
engine
good
involved.
question, but the answer is it just glows in the dark because it's
Yeah.
cool.
For now.
What we want to do with this, although it hasn't been sort of finalized, but glow in the dark is a lock. We're doing it in glow in the dark, but the goal will be to actually do it like if you're a Mythic Legions person like Hagnon, or if you're a Super 7 Ultimates collector, you can look at like Ghost Jaga as an example. So it'll be like a semi-translucent plastic, glow in the dark plastic, and then the sort of features and details will be painted over top. So glow in the dark is locked in, but that translucent part we just have to confirm whether or not that's going to happen. But I love translucent. I love glow in the dark, and so this is like something that absolutely speaks to me, and like was super important. That I thought we needed to have was an exclusive that kind of played into things that necessarily weren't tied directly into the lore. Because it's a Kickstarter exclusive, so that's why you should get this one specifically, because we're not going to sell this through any retailers. This is not going to be available outside of the Kickstarter. If there's extra quantities based on minimum order quantity, we are going to hold on to them. So if you want one of these, after the Kickstarter, you may be too late. So that's, we've been saying, like, if you're only going to get one figure, this is probably the best one to grab from the Kickstarter.
Because in the lore,
that
this
was a
is actually the
question of-
patient zero zombie.
We might be able to use that.
You definitely answered a question that I was going to talk about as we went through, and once we're funded and the waves available, if this, like some other companies where they're exclusive, they would have it at like conventions and whatnot as those special opportunities for those that show up and talk to you guys in person. That could potentially be.
Yeah, that could potentially be. So we've mentioned conventions. So if we are at conventions, this might make the trip with us. Alternatively, if we do giveaways or promotions, or as another example, something like a Toys for Tots Christmas toy drive kind of thing, maybe one or two of these would be up for prizes. But it's not going to be available at a retail level. You're not going to be able, you're basically not going to be able to sort of like sleep on the Kickstarter and then pick this up 6 months later without, begging us, or you're gonna have to back the Kickstarter. It is an exclusive, so it's not going to be easy to get apart from the Kickstarter.
And I like the idea that you're saying Christmas giveaways or whatnot, because now I'm just gonna have to get the accessory pack that Arlen designed for the Naughty or Nice line and get a Santa hat on top of this for
exactly.
December.
Yeah.
But I'll roll into like the stretch goals, because this kind of ties in here. We have this with the exclusive. We can see like this is an older spacesuit, a lot more of like a futuristic aspect in regards to like the backpack and stuff. And that kind of leads into the first stretch goal, which we'll get to. But I also wanted to highlight, as you guys were talking earlier, Ira, the music. And I think we touched on a lot of this in regards to like, this is the thematic cadence for the line as you were designing it. You said this is a fully visualized soundtrack. Can you say how many songs are available?
There's 10 songs.
10?
And they sort of run the range of like, dark soundtrack music to, space funk.
To country.
Okay.
Well, there's a little country, but that's not us. That's actually a character that we created.
Okay. And then we had the comic book is going to be 32 pages, and written by you, Ira, and drawn by Arlen. Now, Arlen, are you doing the pencils and the inking, or just one aspect of it? Or?
Well, if you look at the cover of the album, I drew that and colored that. I'm going to be doing pages similar, more like, I guess you would, call them splash pages. So, like, I'll just ink them. I'm not going to color them. Just, sketch and ink.
And it looks like you guys have provided two options for backers. You know, the cool aspect like of transporting this music with you wherever you go is in regards to like the digital aspect of it. And I'm assuming, you know, we'll see a variety of different audio formats that could be available for people, or is we strictly looking like MP4s? Um, and I'm going to ask, as we continue on with the campaign and afterwards, are we going to get like little samples of some of the soundtrack made available for backers or through updates, or is that going to
Yeah,
be too much like a spoiler?
I'm currently working on. I haven't got to it yet, but this week I'm gonna just cut a little chunks of each song and give them to Adam to sort of sprinkle onto the Kickstarter as we move forward here.
Perfect.
Badass.
And the drawing here of an LP isn't just for the image and an aspect of it, but you're also providing an option to purchase physical copies of both the comic book and the actual LP, which is really awesome. I did watch I think Toy Amigos you were on last night, Adam, and like you were some of the things that were being brought up was like the different styles or different types of plastics that were going to be used for the LP, and is it going to be this color? Is it going to be like a gradient? Was someone asking like their special records that like have like a liquid inlay or something like that?
Somebody did.
Wow stuff.
I can't remember when somebody asked that. There, you can do LPs with liquid inside. Now, I've never actually seen one.
What?
We are definitely not going to do that. It would be so cost prohibitive.
Yeah,
but
no.
but it's cool. I mean, look, I'll tell if we sell 10,000 copies of the record, maybe we'll consider that. But below anything below that, 9,999 records, we're not even thinking about it.
You heard it here, folks. 10,000.
Okay. And this is also going to be available right now, you know, with the two astronauts and the two walkers we have. But now let's go into your stretch goals real quick. And the first one, which I think everyone was really looking at, and this is kind of one of those guys you're like, oh my God, this is really cool. Is Spike Spector. And he
Now,
is,
just
he
before we
was the
get into
leader.
Spike, can I just say one more thing about the record? You know, the record is rendered in purple, but we're gonna do a poll, and we're gonna sort of give people 3 or 4 options. Once the Kickstarter is done, we're sort of gonna open that poll up and sort of determine what the final color will be for the record. So for the record, we're gonna do a poll once the Kickstarter ends.
Okay.
I like purple.
Cool. So Spike, the original leader of or the leader of the original Red Dust mission. A lot of information you have here, and again, I just pulled these directly from the Kickstarter. So these bios you guys are watching or seeing here, you can read it on the Kickstarter page as well. Which of course everyone who's watching right now and on the replay is going to go to that Kickstarter page. But you know, Spike's showing a little bit of those classic. Am I good or am I bad look here? He's got the little the mutton chops that are kind of a fine point, but Arlen's
If you are questioning
facial
if he is
expression.
good or evil, man, did you see that accessory?
Well, we're gonna see it right now. Like, look at that.
Oh, what a guy.
That is
Yeah, no, that's like
beautiful.
classic bad guy haircut, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be an evil barber somewhere that just gives all his clients, have
That's
that.
in wave 2, the evil
That
barber.
widow's
Evil
peak
barber.
is begging to monologue.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh, that is so cool.
Also, that crown.
So
Did you see that crown, man? That's just screams
Yeah.
evil.
Still
Yeah,
read
that-
Richard's
So-
wife.
There it is.
so
Have a look
looking at this
that.
guy. Oh, hold on here.
Yeah. That just screams hero right there, man.
So that could be I'm assuming that's kind of built from some of the local inhabitants possibly. So interesting to say the least.
I'll
And the
give
fact
you
that is a fully a full helmet that can go on and off is just gorgeous.
I'll give you a
Kudos on
hint.
that.
That is, there is nothing local about that. Nothing local.
So I want to take a second and highlight again my brother from Texas, QTube, Quentin J. Bedwell. Thank you for joining us tonight, man. He is another alum from Figure Reaction. A great individual, and will make you laugh until you have to run the restroom. But I love all the different accessories that we see here, especially that goldfish bowl astronaut helmet. It's really cool. The sci-fi aspect of it. Again, just we're saying this is 60s, but it's not exactly our 1960s by what we're looking at. So this is like a little Flash Gordon type of snippets here and there. I really think this guy looks amazing, and it's a stretch goal of 126,500. So not much higher than what we need to get completely funded. So
yeah, no,
I'm
I
excited.
mean, as we go through the stretch goals, hopefully people will notice that like the sort of the jumps are pretty close, and the idea there is that really every one of these stretch goals represents additional tooling plates, which means additional molding costs and all that kind of stuff. So we're really just recouping our costs. We're there's no big jumps from the initial funding goal all the way through to the last stretch goal. You're talking about a difference of 50,000, which is effectively just cost. It's expensive to make toys, so we're doing everything that we can to make this make sense, as I said, to collectors. So having the stretch goals intentionally close to the funding goal and have each one between sort of 5,000 and 7,000 US was the goal, but it didn't quite shake out that way just because of the Canadian dollar exchange. But we wanted it to sort of be set up in a way that once the funding goal clears, the stretch goals should be kind of like dominoes, where as each one unlocks, it effectively allows backers or people that are sort of sitting on the fence to sort of put money into the Kickstarter. And then as they unlock, the next one is that much closer, and hopefully, once the first one unlocks, people just sort of jump in and sort of get us to the end really, really quick.
We do have one request, Adam, if I can make you big again. Is there a way that you could put Spike's head and that helmet together?
No, and the reason is these are the paint masters, and I am not willing to scratch the paint on the head before we photograph it or send it away. As soon as we have examples where we can put them together, we will absolutely show that.
Understood. Merlin, your expression was priceless. To say that. So we're gonna keep moving along here. I know I'm slowing down. Let me pick up the pace a little bit here. So we got the next unlock at 148,000. We have Dr. Michael Locke of the medical division. Irie, what can you tell us about Mike here?
Mike's a nerd. He's the nerd of all nerds. He's sort of based on some of my best friends, actually. And myself a little bit. He loves reading old books, and he collects toys and action figures just like all of us. And he's sort of like, through him we're introduced to the sort of there's this sort of Lord of the Rings type book that gets mentioned a bunch and will in future lines be part of, and he's kind of like our introduction to that. And he's kind of a jackass, like he's kind of a jerk. He's good, but he's
just like
he's
your
not
friends.
Yeah, that's right. He's a little bit of a like, he doesn't get the social cues, and he just seems like an asshole. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
No,
He seems
I like
that.
it.
Not
I
a
like
nice guy.
the buzzsaw add-on for his arm. I guess that clips onto his arm.
No, the buzzsaw is it's a hand thing, but
Oh,
it
it is a hand weapon?
unplugs. Yeah, it unplugs and it does plug into the arms as well.
Okay.
And
I'm
there's
just-
also
Oh,
a drill
cool.
that you can. It's all interchangeable.
I'm just trying to figure
Okay.
out what the broad pieces. That looks like a buzzsaw stuck in somebody's stomach. Which, in that case, then
We'll-
sold.
Absolutely. And again, just the sculpt work on this is really cool. I love the aspect of like his medical badge right there on top of the regulator on his chest.
Mhm.
Again, this one is, you know, the what we envision, like some of the deco with it, but just a great use of color and contrast across all these renders so far, Arlen. So this is masterful work.
you.
So we'll go into the next one here. And this one is one that I was really excited for. And this is Georgia McBride, the engineer. I'm assuming, you know, our Scotty of the team. So Ira, what can you tell us about Georgia?
She's a little more fun than Scotty is. She's she's like our party girl. She is, you know, some like you're asking. No one's ever asked me this before, kind of stuff before. So she's a little somewhat based on my partner Natalie, and just she loves life. She loves music, and she is a big fan of country music, and she sings part of a song that is on the record in the book, and yeah, she's my favorite character. She's the most fun.
So is she a brunette, blonde, or redhead?
Under
She's
that,
a blonde.
oh, there you go. See, she
Is
doesn't
it
like
blonde?
the look is not based on.
Yeah, blonde.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm just saying, I'm trying to picture what she looks like, possibly in the comic book, you know, without the suit on,
She's
as
on.
they're all sitting
She's
around and she's
she's
dancing
in
and
that
whatnot.
what that image from the comic.
Okay.
So if you scroll back
We like
to those images.
the ukulele is really cool.
Smelly cat.
That's, you know, it's
Can
not,
she
that's
play
not
that
something we
in
normally
space?
see. What's that, T?
I said, can she play that in space?
Don't you know, in space, no one can hear you play the strings. That
Now,
was
I
forced.
do want to. Oh, I'm sorry, Dave. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I did a very horrible joke. That's all.
Now, the ukulele, is that something in regard to, say, like, you know, your musical influences, that your life, is that how you wanted to kind of impart a little bit of that into the character design specifically with her?
Me?
I'll go with that. Either
Yeah,
Arlen
Arlen.
or
Yeah.
Arlen with that.
Well, before I got into sculpting, I used to teach guitar building, so that's
damn.
probably the most accurate ukulele at 1/12 scale you'll ever see.
All right. And
The
and
scale
just-
length, the scale length on all the frets are exactly spaced out properly.
And that's
I love
sculpted
it.
frets, right? We're not going to see actual like string or anything like that on this
All sculpted, yeah.
stretch goal. Stretch
Arlen's
goals.
Arlen's gonna build 1/12 scale ukuleles one at a time between now and when we. So you know the reason that these figures are going to take as long as they're going to take to deliver is because Arlen has to get to work on making all the ukuleles.
Yes, or I was going to say there's a lot of meetings that you guys are going to have with the toy company, and they're going to be like, we're at 2,000 ukuleles now, guys. We've gone through 7 attempts because their hands are now, you know, like all pinched up and arthritic. But Georgia looks great. I love, again, the orange is a really striking color. It looks fantastic. And then, like you said, the drill you said, Arlen, the drill's kind of modular and can go in
with
between
all the other weapons. Well, not all the weapons, but yeah, in between like the
Okay,
saw, all the
so-
other tools, I guess you could say.
Well,
Okay, I was
they
gonna say you said tool and then
become
you said
weapons.
weapon. So I like that. I
They're
like the
tools
twist
that are
on both.
used as weapons.
Yeah.
Okay,
They get
and
used
this
as
stretch
weapons.
Well, that's
goal is
I mean that's
100
was going to just
Go ahead,
say
Adam.
very briefly, like you've shown all the astronauts, and you've shown all the accessories. So all the accessories that come with the astronauts are sort of based in and around who they are as characters. So the engineer comes with a drill, the medical officer comes with a bone saw, the science officer comes with sort of a claw that can sort of pick things up and investigate things. One aspect of Red Dust 2 that isn't always sort of obvious in the lore is that they're effectively going to Mars on a colonizing mission. They're not going on a military mission, even though they're led by a sort of a military guy, which just kind of makes practical sense, right? You're going somewhere that's somewhat unknown. You'd send at least a couple guys to protect things, or sit around and do nothing if you find nothing that's dangerous. But everybody's going with the tools that they would go with on a colonizing mission. So, they get there and things don't work out exactly how they might have hoped. Okay, so what do we do? And, you got a
Roll for
bone saw,
initiative.
you've got a drill, you've got some claws. What do you do? Stay tuned for more on that.
I'm
Very
excited. I'm officially backer number 187, just so you know.
Nice.
Excellent.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks.
that, Dave. All right, 165.5, and then we continue along. Now I put the walkers all together. They are at the stretch goals. I know I kind of bounced around with, but I wanted to incorporate these additional walker archetypes together to kind of get an idea. Like with each division and each main character, we have a corresponding walker, and
Yeah.
we're looking at different goals here. Now the red walker retro, same body buck as the glow in the dark, only it's going to be all painted, none of the gimmick aspect, and that's at 137. Again, very achievable in my eyes. For 155, we're going to get the medical version of a walker, and then 169 is going to be our engineer. Again, it's a really cool thing, and like you were saying before, Adam, with the different bundles we look at, as the stretch goals get more and more into reality, there's going to be some options for backers to kind of pick and choose in some bundles what they want to pick or what they want to have for their collection.
Well,
So
we
these
did have
are
a question. Yeah, we did
Oh,
have a
go
question
ahead.
earlier asking if you guys would be using the backer kit post kit Kickstarter, so that way people can build up. They've pledged, they've gone through, then they want to add up to it. So
Yeah, so the plan as of now is to use backer kit. Kickstarter this is some sort of inside baseball type stuff. Like backer kit is sort of the easiest way to get addresses and to sort of like fill out survey questions and have people sort of pick. Okay, so you back for 4 zombies. Which 4 zombies do you want? All that kind of stuff is super easy through backer kit. I've used it multiple times. I've set it up for multiple different projects. So that's probably the way that we're going to go. That being said, Kickstarter has sort of like a new post Kickstarter backer kit like thing. I just haven't, looked at that. So it might be an extension of Kickstarter or it'll be backer kit, but there will be sort of an additional period after the fact that will allow people to add to their orders.
okay.
And each
You would hate to
walker
prevent
we're
people
looking
from
at again.
spending.
Go ahead, Dave, please.
I said we'd hate to prevent people from spending more money.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. That's why it exists too. It's like, yeah, we're gonna make these, so like, should we make more, or are you guys good with that many? So yeah, it's absolutely. It also gives people, some time after the fact. I know that the Kickstarter itself is 31 days, and we're gonna fund and unlock all the stretch goals, and I realize that not everybody is gonna be able on April 1st to be able to pay, for all in on everything. What I will say is, back for everything that you can now, because that, gets those unlocks done, and then we can kind of move past and sort of get straight into it without having to worry about like, okay, well, are we going to use backer kit to like put towards unlocks, or how are they going to work? Because it's a little clumsier in backer kit to unlock things. So we would love to unlock everything before we end the campaign, and that just makes it that much easier. Then you know what you're looking at, and it's just it's a little tidier that way. So
Okay. Well, speaking of closing on the stretch goals, we have some other accessories here, and we've seen the shadows throughout all the images tonight. But we definitely have two identified stretch goals here in regards to additional hand options, and then is this additional zombie parts. Again, these are going to be really cool ways for us to, as collectors and playing with our toys and playing with photography, to kind of mix and match. And you all three of you have kind of identified, the modularity of these figures in regards to, like, maybe we have a zombie that is, his or her suit is torn and we just see both arms. But we need to unlock these parts to make that a reality for us. So what, I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory. These are different items hidden from us. But there's one area that you guys didn't put any information down, and it's kind of in the middle there is we have a head option. We don't know how that's going to work yet, and I don't think I'm going to get the answer from you guys, but it's really cool in regards to the fact that we still have some mystery in this Kickstarter.
No, we can. I mean, we can answer it insofar as how it works and what it is. The head pack is just that. It's a head pack. So the head pack is not a pack in. The head pack is different from a pack in. It is a stretch goal. SKU. Like it's something you'll be able to add to your pledge. The extra hands pack in is an unlock that will add those shadowed hands into the figures that you've already bought. The zombie parts pack in, the image there is a representation. So depending on, what figure you're looking at, you're going to see additional things shadowed, whether that's a limb, whether that's extra heads. That image just represents those shadowed parts in the 3D renders. The heads pack is different though, because the head pack is 5 additional heads. These 5 heads do not, exist in any of the renders before that. So you won't get these heads with any of the other figures. These are additional heads to go with your figures. Just gives customizers and sort of people that buy, multiples of anything, the opportunity to just sort of build out the expressions and build out the uniqueness of the figures. So these are 5 heads that you will not see in the line unless the head pack gets unlocked.
I mean,
And they're pretty
every
fun.
Starship crew needs red shirts. Or fodder.
So, Uncle Junior had a question real quick here. Will the skull heads from the Kickstarter exclusive be released in the head pack, or is that
the skull head from the exclusive is in the medical Red Walker, and it may or may not be like one of the shadowed heads for one of the figures, but I can't remember. I think it's only on 2.
Okay, and the way I read his question was, would the Kickstarter, like the glow in the dark element, is that going to be something we could see in this head pack?
No.
Okay. All right. I guess one other question I have is, would we see more mutton chops in any of these heads?
No.
Okay. Okay. It's curious, you said, expressions and whatnot. So I'm really curious to see about it. And I see one head has a little bit of a deformity around his ear. So that obviously has to have a little bit of a story with it as well. So
it's the Stephen Colbert head.
All right. So now we're gonna talk. Oh, you got it right there?
Yeah, I'm not showing you. I'm just teasing. Just teasing.
Well, fine. So I wanted to point, some of the pledges, and just for clarity's sake, we've done it before, but in the past, we've kind of went and brought the Kickstarter and kind of went and scrolled down. Sometimes I find that very jarring, which is why I wanted to put all the pledge bundles together
Yes.
just
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
ease of use for everyone. And this is kind of like the, I want to say the basic, but this is like the regular tier that we see that can be achieved with or without stretch goals. These are just the starting point for everyone to kind of look at. And we have a 2 Red Walker pack, an astronaut and a Red Walker, which is what you had mentioned before, Adam, and
Yeah.
then specifically 2 astronauts. And the prices for both are fantastic. You know, you're paying as much or less as what you would get from a retail 2-pack figures. And we're looking at
Yeah.
the accessories, especially with the 2 astronauts. You're looking at like 2 deluxe figures for less than what you would get a 2-figure of another brand, so to speak.
Correct. Yes.
Really cool ideas.
Yeah, and we will. You know, the goal here was that like the more you buy, the cheaper it gets. So you know, if you buy a single figure, it's still cheaper than the retail price. So the astronauts will retail for about 45, and the zombies will retail for about 28. And we've got them for 40 and 25 respectively. But as you sort of multiply those, so you know, 2 Red Walkers is $70 or 49 US. You know, you're taking, as a general rule, you're taking about $1 per figure off as you go. So you know, 1 is 25. You know, if you do 2, you're looking at sort of 24 per. Or at least that's how I wanted it to work. But because of the exchange, I can't kind of control that necessarily. But, you know, if you go 4, it's sort of like $2 off per. So as you go into more, you're getting sort of an additional discount, if that makes sense.
No, it absolutely does. And these are, again, these prices for these bundles are very reasonable in my opinion, especially for the amount of accessories and the quality that you're getting from these figures. And we're going to continue going on. We get a little bigger here. Again, as collectors, we like to army build, and you know, sometimes again, cost is a factor, like you said. So these larger bundles, if you want more walkers and more of these combinations, the prices go up, I think, in a very reasonable manner, as you add more figures in. Great, and I think one of the things I like to highlight that you have in here is, in regards to this reward, it's the ability to choose any 4 unlock astronauts. So this is all going to be based on the pledges we have now to get funded and to hit those stretch goals. Opens up the window for the backer to pick and choose more than Julia and Guy.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Very cool. And then we go into the 2 like kind of larger bundles here towards the bottom of the Kickstarter. The prepare to launch bundle is about $180 US, 260 Canadian. You're getting a lot of stuff, but it's very specific, and I'd like to give that floor to you, Adam, to kind of explain that a little bit.
So the prepare for launch bundle is the sort of bundle of one of everything that we're offering in the launch package. So you get, you know, 1 of the Guy Garrison, you get 1 of the Julia Stryker, you get the 2 zombies to match them, you get the Kickstarter exclusive glow in the dark zombie, you get the record, and you get the comic book. This is a no substitution bundle because it is also the best price on, you know, a per unit price. And that's just sort of how we factor it in, because it's sort of less work if we do an all-in bundle than if we allow people to kind of pick and choose. So you get more savings, but you get a little less flexibility. If you want a little more flexibility, you know, I think the pricing is still very reasonable and sort of very good. And you can do, you know, the 2 astronauts and 2 Red Walkers, or, you know, on this slide here, the 4 astronauts and 4 Red Walkers. That's still a really, really good price for the sort of choose your own adventure type packs. But the ones where we're picking for you is going to be the best price. And if we unlock all the stretch goals, there's going to be an additional all-in bundle. It's called All Systems Go bundle. And that will go for, I think it goes for about $350 US. It's 500 Canadian, so whatever that translates to. And then that'll be, you know, all the astronauts, all the zombies, and everything unlocked in one bundle. And that will also be no substitutions.
Okay, now for those two larger bundles without substitutions, we have the LP and comic book. Is that going to be physical and digital, or is it just going to be the physical bundle?
Yeah, no, it's a physical bundle, but you know, a couple people have asked, and realistically, we're probably gonna send out the digital version of the comic and the record to just about all backers. You know, if you've only backed for the digital bundle, we appreciate you. But you know, because the physical bundles are that much more expensive, and because the physical bundles will take that much longer to get to people, we're very likely going to send out, you know, sooner rather than later the digital products to people, just to sort of tide them over. So
Okay. And I did want to ask one question back to Ira and Arlen in regards to the music and the record. And this is going to be a little cheesy, but if we play it backwards, are we going to get some alien language being spoken to us? Is it going to like
I don't
turn our
know.
minds into mush? Are we going to explode?
I think if you play it forward, you're going to be traumatized enough.
All right. Titan asks again. I think we kind of answered this one, but the preparator bundle, there's no substitutions. Stretch goals get unlocked. Those can be add-ons when you do a back. I'm assuming, you know, as you go through with you're managing your pledge. If you go for the preparator bundle, you're going to get one of everything, like you said. If there are additional ones, you can kind of add those in at the cost of the figures from the Kickstarter, correct?
yeah, you can kind of look at, or I mean, I can kind of answer that question in two ways. You can either add them on to the prepare to launch bundle as add-ons. Everything, you know, every individual item will be available as an add-on, you know, to your pledge. But the all systems go bundle will be about $350, like I said, 350 US. So if you think you want one of everything that you've seen in the campaign, you know, pledge for whatever reward tier and then just add on things to sort of equal about $350. And then the beauty of that is it sort of gets us that much closer to the funding goal and to unlocking everything. And then you can always go back in and change your pledge. And when that all systems go bundle unlocks, you can just change your pledge over to that one. And then you'll get one of everything, like I said, at the best possible per unit price.
Well, that's kind of where we're at right now. And I just kind of I wanted to get an idea of what we're looking at. So I kind of merged these two images together from your Kickstarter. It's really
So this
cool.
this has been revealed on another channel. I'll let people sort of figure out. But what you should have spliced is these two heads.
Uh-huh.
That's a
All right.
unlock. That's a hidden blacked out head, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Now, I was going to ask, did you have any samples of the body itself?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've got Guy Garrett. Whoa. Hold on.
Don't break it.
Also, while you're finding those, I do have a couple questions that were starred that I picked up from earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. Fire away.
One is, I know you mentioned that there isn't going to be the retail boost per se, but once everything's been funded, will these be on online e-tailers? And
yes.
Will they be shipping at will the e-tailers be getting them at the same time the Kickstarter people get them, or will, like, since I backed Kickstarter, will I have it in my hands before the e-tailers ship them out?
While we can't guarantee that if you back the Kickstarter, you'll have it first, because there's a little bit more to that question than people often realize. It depends what the retailer is. It depends how they get their figures, whether they take fulfillment from the factory or they take fulfillment from us. He's kind of a bobblehead, so he's like speaking on my behalf.
I can see that.
But the intention is that everything will have a street date, and you know, the retailers that we've already spoken to have been very gracious and sort of accommodating, and I think they'll probably honor the street date. So theoretically, you should get the product from us first, I will do everything in my power as somebody that sort of does a lot of logistics for, and not just Spiro, but helps some other people. I will do everything in my power to try to make it so that Kickstarter backers get their stuff first. And I really, I'm gonna put this down now.
You can't put that down.
I'm gonna ask Merlin to help us look at some of the different items, but I understand you're being our Vanna for the moment. That can get a little tiring after a while.
No, as a Canadian collector and as somebody that has felt that, like, being the last one, at the party by sort of waiting for my figures to arrive in Western Canada when Eastern United States collectors have had them for like what seems like decades. I take every step possible to make sure that everybody kind of gets them at the same time. So things that I do as a sort of logistics person is I actually ship West Coast. They're going to be fulfilled from an East Coast warehouse. I will ship West Coast orders first.
Ooh,
I will ship international orders before I even ship the United States West Coast ones. So the logic there is not perfect, but effectively, if I ship a package to Europe 2 days before I ship a package to Eastern United States from the United States, that package gets a bit of a head start. It still gets there after the package that, only has to go 30 miles. But that window gets compressed because one of them had a head start. So
like launching artillery shells at different angles and velocities.
Yeah, I guess.
They land about the same time.
I've never launched artillery shells, but yeah, I mean the logic is there. Yeah, the goal is for everything to land at the same time for the backers, and so I do kind of everything in my power to sort of make that happen. We're in Canada, so the other thing that I mentioned to Canadian backers is if it makes more sense for me to personally mail the Canadian ones, we'll take a small delivery of the product, in Canada, and I'll just distribute that in Canada so that it doesn't have to cross a border, so that you can save some fees or save some time or what have you. So the fulfillment is super, super important to me. I don't want to sort of like overstate that, but like I've been, like I said, I've been on the wrong side of fulfillment where, I'm patient. I'm happy to wait. I know that if the figure's amazing, it doesn't matter if I get it tomorrow or if I get it, in a few weeks, but I'd rather have it tomorrow. So
of course.
So that's,
All right,
so hopefully that answers the question. What was the question? I can't remember what the question was.
The other question is, when it comes to future waves, this came from White Vegeta. When it comes from future waves, will there be some version of like a retro robot or lunar rover or landing capsule? Is anything like that, at least in the wish list? I'm not saying we need vehicles, because Lord knows we got plenty of 112 scale vehicles, but on your dream list.
Oh, in our dream list? Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
I mean, on our dream list, we're going to do a 112 scale Mars.
Oh, that's awesome. Excellent. You heard it here first, guys. That is a figure action exclusive.
Hey, Adam, I wanted to ask something real quick in regards to when you were talking about shipping and everything. What do we have? What do we have as a release date for Wave 1?
So tentatively, right now we have October 2026. So we're giving ourselves about 17 months, I think, if I calculated that right, 16, 17 months, from end of Kickstarter to delivery.
That seems very, very achievable.
It is very achievable, and that was by design. So we've had people that have sort of suggested, like there's even people sort of within the industry that sort of said, well, you could probably say that it's going to be delivered sooner. We would rather, under promise and over deliver than the other way around. So it's kind of one of those things where, you know, we could say they're going to be in your hands before Christmas, and you'd all be calling us liars at Christmas time. So we don't want to do that. We want to give you a very realistic goal of when you're going to have these. And realistically, it takes about 1.5 years to make an action figure from where we will be at the end of the Kickstarter to when you can have it in hand.
I do want to note though that everything is sculpted and ready for the factory. Almost everything is painted. We just need a few more. All the heads are painted anyways. Few more
So it sounds like
bodies.
A lot of the conversations are ready to go with the toy makers and stuff, and a lot of decisions already made, so that way they can get right into the work.
Absolutely.
That's great.
And to that point too, you know, people keep sort of saying, oh, you know, what about this? What about this? Part of why the Kickstarter campaign is as tight as it is, with just the astronauts and the zombies, and we're not doing, you know, a robot or what have you, is time frame. The more parts you have, the longer it takes, because the whole process back and forth between the factory, the whole process back and forth with test shots and check models and paint masters and all that kind of stuff, all that stuff just stacks up. And what you have very often is like a huge, amazing offering that just takes way longer. So the idea here is that we can get these to people in a relatively quick time frame, with a relatively sort of concise offering. And then beyond that, we can start expanding. So, you know, if you like what you've seen here, you know, maybe you've seen other stuff that Arlen has sculpted and posted and stuff like that. This is as I said, you know, towards the beginning, this is the Kickstarter for the company as well. So this is sort of the Kickstarter for the nameless universe, not just Space Zombies from Mars.
Well said. And I definitely want to, you know, again, thank you guys for being with us a little longer than usual for
Mike,
tonight.
you're supposed to log out. You're supposed to log out before you show this part of it, because nice flex, but
this is where I'm at for right. This is where I'm at for right now. So
no, that's
again,
awesome, man.
I'm into it. I'm into this line. I definitely, you know, I've seen what you have to offer. I've heard you guys on other shows. I'm sold. I'm in. So
I'm already
all I
in.
can do
You
is
got my credit card.
I'm only can go up instead of down. So
Yeah.
But I wanted to close out by showing the Kickstarter page and where you guys are at right now after 1 week. You guys are well over $20,000.
Can I just say, I don't look at the Kickstarter page. I learned from previous Kickstarters that I've done that like it's so anxiety inducing that I can't do it.
God,
Kickstarter sends an email every morning and says, "Here's where you're at," and that's my reference point. I didn't know we were doing that well. I'll just say that.
To quote some other famous Canadians, it's been 1 week since now.
You know,
I look at it every hour. I do.
I think I do. I think I do too.
Yeah. I told them not to, because it goes up and it goes down. People adjust their pledges, and people kind of, you know, as people, oh, you know what? I only backed for one, but I'm gonna go for more. But they kind of like they remove their pledge while they're like redoing it. So like I've seen people just go absolutely crazy, just trying to go like, well, why is it down? Oh, it's back up. Never mind. And so I don't look. I can't.
It's good advice.
And you know what? I go ahead, please.
You finish up first, then I'll wrap. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, as a YouTube channel person as well, sometimes I hate looking at the analytics just because of that reason.
I hate that part.
Like,
Yeah.
You're, you know, like you gain 5, but all of a sudden like 3 drop off the next day. You're like, like you're scrambling around to see what's going on. So I understand the desire to kind of focus on what we're doing and getting the information out, and you know, get that little hit, like you said, every morning, like, oh, well, we're here right now. But I will say, you know, getting this number before closing out on week 1 is a fantastic start for you guys, and I applaud you. And that's why, you know, coming on to here, even if it's, you know, smaller channels like us, but you know, it's getting the word out, and that's what is important from my
And we have our
aspect.
100% ratio. We have 100% success ratio.
There you go.
That's why we agreed to this. Yeah.
That's
No,
right.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like the reality is, like, we can't do this on our own. Like, we don't have the money. Like that's the reality of it, right? Like, we're full transparency. If we had the money, we would have just launched the brand and sort of made the figures and sold them. But we need Kickstarter. We need people like you guys. We need collectors to be into this, and whether it's just one host that backs, as a result of the video, or a few people, every channel has a different audience, every channel has a different reach. There's no such thing as like an insignificant channel as far as I'm concerned, because every channel has different viewership and every channel has a different audience and so on and so forth. So super appreciative to you guys for reaching out. And again, if there's more questions, or if you guys have further questions or whatever, but really, having us on is so supportive, and we're thankful for that. People that can kind of tweet or post or share, or if you got a channel, just mention this, because there's lots of people we realize that aren't necessarily going to have heard of us. By default, we all, we just assume like, well, it's out there, everybody's going to see it now.
Mhm.
But the reality is that a lot of people are gonna be sort of reaching out to us 6 months from now and being like, how come I've never heard of this? And we're gonna say, I don't know. Like we're doing everything we can to get it out there, but we don't know every collector in the toy collecting sphere. So thank you guys for having us, and thank you to anybody that sort of shared or backed or whatever.
And thank you guys.
We're seeing the Kickstarter here, and guys, obviously, thank you for being on here with us. And what I want to try to close out with is, how can we? What are some of the ways that people can get updates beyond the Kickstarter for you guys? I mean, we have Instagram. Each of you guys have your own Instagram as well as the company one. What else are we looking at?
The Kickstarter, any updates that we do will be in the Kickstarter. So the Kickstarter and the Instagram. What is she saying? That's my wife. Oh, she checks all the time. She checks way more than I do. She teases me all the time. What was I saying? Yeah, the Instagram and the Kickstarter are sort of the two spots for now. We're getting a Facebook page going. I've heard from some people that maybe they don't do Instagram, and Facebook is the way that they sort of do their toy collecting. So we're gonna go through that. We got more things to share. We have an articulation, exploded view to share. We've got some song clips to share. As I said, we've got all that stuff behind shadows, but we're not going to get to the end of the campaign without sharing everything that's behind those shadows. So stay tuned and sort of keep in touch. Watch the videos. I posted an update of, at that time, all the videos that we were planning on doing. I think there's actually more that have been added since. So I'll probably like update that once a week kind of thing as we go, and try to post. We are, all three of us have, full-time jobs, and we're very busy. So admittedly, sometimes we kind of don't post as much as we should. If anybody has questions, whether it's about the campaign, whether it's about articulation, whether it's about fulfillment, don't hesitate to reach out, whether that's in the comments on the Kickstarter, whether that's in a direct message on Instagram. Reach out to us individually, on social media, because we think we do a good job of sort of getting it out there and presenting it, but there's always somebody that said, I wanted to know more about this. And we're like, oh, of course, yeah. We just, it slipped our mind or what have you. So yeah, don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome.
I appreciate that, and we always, now that we're backing here, we're invested as well. And
yep,
exactly.
We've always kind of been keeping our fingers in the pulse of Kickstarter. So we'll be right there with you, Dave.
Yeah, gentlemen, thank you very much. Everyone who has stuck with us for this entire episode, thank you so much. Those of you on the replay squad, thank you so much. Please, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Please go check out that kit guide. God dang it, man, that looks awesome. Ooh.
Oh, man.
I mean, if people have stuck around this long, we should give them something, right?
Thank you.
Wow.
It's awesome.
Ooh. So,
Thank you.
like I said, I've backed it. Mike's backed it. I know some people in the chat have backed it. I want all of y'all who's hearing my voice to back this. This is an awesome project for some awesome guys. But of course, as always, until next time, take care, everybody. Peace.
Good night,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Peace.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us, guys.
Guys.